Ya, Bu Desi, ready?
Ready, Kak.
Okay, cool. All right. So, without any further ado, let's just start ya. Teman-teman, terima kasih sudah bersedia untuk datang di post event MIWF. Ya, terima kasih sekali Bu Pur dan teman-teman dari UKSW yang sudah memfasilitasi MIWF juga untuk post eventnya. Senang sekali bekerja sama kembali dengan MIWF. Nah, mungkin bagi teman-teman yang belum tahu apakah itu MIWF. Nah, MIWF itu merupakan singkatan dari Makassar International Writers Festival. Dan pada temanya kali ini MIWF 2023 mengangkat tema faith, membuka ruang-ruang percakapan tentang agama, kepercayaan, nilai, dan tujuan hidup. Nah, tema ini tidak sebatas tentang membicarakan peran agama saja dan kepercayaan di masa sulit, seperti ketika kita mengalami pandemi global kemarin, ataupun ketika kita pada saat yang lowest point of our life, kalau katanya Bu Pur ya, Bu Pur nanti tolong diterjemahkan ya Bu Pur. Nah, melainkan lebih dari itu. Jadi MIWF Faith ini menawarkan beberapa perspektif untuk membangun harapan, bertahan, dan menciptakan keseimbangan. Nah, untuk info lebih lanjutnya, teman-teman bisa nanti mengakses lewat www.makassarwriters.com. Nah, di salah satu program MIWF ini itu adalah post event. Itu sama seperti kayak tahun-tahun sebelumnya di mana kita juga mempunyai pre-event atau post event. Untuk tahun ini post event, kalau kemarin kita dengan UKSW itu menjadi pre-event, tahun ini menjadi post event ya. Nah, di post event ini kita akan membicarakan tentang Satellite of Faith, Stories of Hope, dari 5 penulis yang promising, dan juga kita akan berbincang dengan Ibu Desi Amalia. Tentunya tidak afdol kalau seumpamanya kita tidak memulai sebagai orang Indonesia, kita tidak memulai dengan lagu kebangsaan kita. Oleh karena itu, mungkin Eden kita bisa mulai dengan menyanyikan lagu Indonesia Raya. Teman-teman dimohon untuk duduk dalam sikap yang tegak dan kita mulai bernyanyi. Terima kasih. Baik, terima kasih Eden telah membantu kita untuk memutar lagu kebangsaan kita ya. Tentunya acara ini kan tidak afdol ya, dalam bahasa Inggris ada peribahasa out of sight, out of mind. Jauh di mata. Kalau tak kenal maka tak sayang. Oleh karena itu untuk kesempatan pertama ini saya meminta teman saya, sahabat saya, Mas Rahmat dari MIWF untuk memberikan sepatah dua patah kata sebelum nanti dilanjutkan dengan Pak Agastya sebagai host kita di UKSW. Monggo Mas Rahmat.
Ya, terima kasih Mbak Deska. Saya mau perkenalkan diri. Nama saya Rahmat Mustamin. Sekarang saya mengelola program di Rumata Art Space, di mana Rumata itu adalah inisiator dari Makassar International Writers Festival. Saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada teman-teman sekalian yang terlibat di dalam Satelite program atau program-program pasca event di Makassar International Writers Festival tahun ini. Nah, mungkin saya mau jelaskan sedikit kira-kira MIWF itu seperti apa. Jadi sebetulnya MIWF ini diselenggarakan oleh Rumata Art Space sejak tahun 2011. Tahun 2020 MIWF meraih penghargaan International Excellence Award sebagai festival sastra terbaik dari London Book Fair. MIWF sejak tahun 2019 mendeklarasikan diri sebagai festival yang menentang all male panel sejak Maret 2020. Kemudian juga festival ini secara independen dikerjakan, menjunjung HAM, laceways, dan anti korupsi. Salah satu hal yang mendasar dari MIWF adalah kita ingin menghubungkan penulis, seniman, pegiat sastra, penerbit, pembaca, remaja, dan khalayak umum yang bisa memainkan peran yang sangat penting, kemudian bisa memfasilitasi diskusi yang menarik dan provokasi ide-ide yang menarik itu. Jadi kita berharap sebetulnya MIWF ini bisa menjadi semacam simbol intelektual dan hubungan budaya antar komunitas lokal, sastra maupun secara global. Nah, tahun ini sudah dijelaskan tadi oleh Mbak Deska, tema MIWF adalah faith. Jadi faith itu adalah tema yang diusung sebetulnya membuka ruang-ruang percakapan tentang agama, kepercayaan, nilai, dan tujuan hidup. Jadi tema ini tidak sebatas membicarakan peran agama dan kepercayaan di masa-masa sulit seperti ketika pandemi global menghantam, tetapi lebih jauh dari itu, ia juga menawarkan berbagai perspektif untuk membangun harapan, kebertahanan, dan menciptakan keseimbangan. Tahun ini cukup menarik gitu karena kalau kita lihat relawan-relawan yang hadir di MIWF itu mostly itu kebanyakan lahir tahun 2001 gitu. Jadi setelah 12 tahun MIWF kerelawanan juga bertumbuh, kemudian gagasan-gagasan dan value kita juga bertumbuh, terutama sikap MIWF yang menentang yang mendukung misalnya sebagai sebuah festival yang anti dari kekerasan seksual gitu. Nah itu adalah salah satu gagasan yang kita usung di tahun ini. Semoga MIWF ini karena dia adalah gagasan, semoga dia tidak berhenti dari tanggal 8 sampai 11 Juni saja, tetapi dia bisa berjalan dan mencari arah yang lebih baik di tahun ini maupun di tahun-tahun mendatang. Mungkin itu saja sebagai pengantar dari saya, Mbak Deska. Semoga kegiatan kita dilancarkan pada siang hari ini. Selamat siang.
Wah, terima kasih Mas Rahmat. Mungkin teman-teman bisa dong kasih untuk virtual tepuk tangannya, jangan lupa. Oke, nah Tentunya kita sebagai tamu dari MIWF sudah mendengar dari Mas Rahmat ya, tetapi tentunya tidak afdol kalau kita belum mendengar dari tuan rumah UKSW. Rumah Turnuwun Pak Agastya sudah welcoming kita dari MIWF ya, dan bisa direpoti di saat-saat terakhir. Nah, untuk kesempatan kali ini saya ingin meminta ketersediaan Pak Agastya selaku dekan dari fakultas di UKSW untuk memberikan sepatah dua kata-kata. Monggo, Pak.
Terima kasih sebelumnya untuk Bu Deska ya. Saya tadi mencoba melihat peserta ya. Saya pikir kalau ada yang orang asing mungkin then I have to talk in or give my speech in English. Tapi saya lihat karena orang kita sendiri, saya rasa sudah pakai bahasa Indonesia saja ya. Oke, terima kasih sebelumnya.
Bahasa Inggris juga boleh loh Pak Agastya, atau bahasa Jawa nanti.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Deska, terima kasih. Salam untuk Bapak Ibu semua, adik-adik, kakak yang ada di tempat ini. Selamat datang, perkenalkan saya Agastya Ramalistia sebagai dekan dari Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni. Kami di Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni UKSW itu ada 4 prodi, prodi pendidikan bahasa Inggris, kemudian prodi sastra Inggris, kebetulan Ibu Pur sebagai kepala prodinya, kemudian ada prodi seni musik dan magister pendidikan bahasa Inggris. Dan sebelumnya mungkin saya harus mengucapkan terima kasih sebelumnya kepada Ibu Pur sebagai kaprodi sastra Inggris yang sudah membuat yang sudah bersedia untuk menjadi fasilitator sehingga kegiatan ini dapat terlaksana dengan baik. Dan juga Bapak Rahmat Hidayat Mustamin, mungkin saya panggil Mas saja, Mas Rahmat, ternyata masih sangat muda, tapi energetik ya, saya lihat sebagai Direktur Kerjasama dan Program ya, serta juga sebagai Program Direktur dari Makassar International Writers Festival. Dan juga seluruh peserta yang hadir di tempat ini, saya mungkin dari berbagai latar belakang institusi, tetapi punya minat yang kurang lebih sama untuk minat terhadap dunia sastra. Dan saya ucapkan selamat bergabung, dan juga pada kesempatan ini kita akan nanti mungkin juga akan mendiskusikan ya sebuah buku yang I just got this book, They Are Here. It's a compilation of several short stories, dan I do hope mungkin melalui event ini kita semua akan masuk dalam a fruitful discussion yang bisa membuka mata hati pikiran cakrawala kita, karena tahun ini temanya tentang faith ya. Begitu ya Mbak Deska ya?
Betul, Bapak.
Ya. Dan faith doesn't have to be connected hanya kepada religion. Ya. Kan kita sering faith could be anything ya. Menurut saya ini menarik karena saya tadi bicara dengan Ibu Pur, ini tentang apa ya Bu Pur? Kemudian ternyata ini berbicara tentang sisi lain dari kemanusiaan ya, yang terpendam dan seringkali tidak bisa ditangkap oleh kamera, tetapi yang disebut kalau di sini katanya adalah hard to tell experiences. Jadi bisa apa saja, bisa sisi gelap manusia, bisa sisi yang shocking experiences. Nah ini mudah-mudahan juga dengan kita akan menghadirkan 3 alumni yang juga sebagai penulis, Bella Bawondes, Yosafat Andrew, Gabian Cameo, dan Kifta Purwalawang, dan juga 2 orang mahasiswa aktif, Gisela Mandika dan Maria Mandagi, dan Maria Sianovika, dengan dipandu oleh Mbak Mbak siapa tadi yang akan memandu? Mbak Desi ya.
Saya
Ya.
Desi, ya Pak. Mbak
Ya.
Desi penanggapnya Pak.
Oke. Nah, kiranya melalui diskusi ini akan menghasilkan suatu tadi kalau istilahnya Pak Mas Rahmat adalah sesuatu yang provokatif ya. Provokatif itu kan tidak selalu negatif ya, tetapi membangkitkan, ignite ya, inspirasi dan sebagainya. Dan semoga ini juga membawa kemanusiaan kita kepada harkat dan martabat yang lebih baik. Jadi tanpa berpanjang lebar, saya berharap pertemuan pada siang hari ini berjalan dengan lancar, sukses, membawa kebermanfaat yang luar biasa bagi kita semua, dan kiranya juga kerjasama antara Rumata dan Makassar International Writers Festival dengan Satya Wacana, khususnya program studi sastra Inggris dapat berjalan dengan baik. Dengan ini sekaligus saya membuka acara ini. Terima kasih. Saya kembalikan ke Mbak Deska.
Terima kasih untuk sambutannya Pak Agastya. Okay, so without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's just, karena kan ini Bapak ini super sibuk ya, masa Pak Agastya ini super sibuk. Jadi sebelum kita mulai, kita akan lebih afdol ketika, kalau ada yang sudah ada bukunya silahkan dibawa, dan mari kita foto dulu ya untuk bukunya ini ya. Oke, teman-teman dari Rumata, Mas Rahmat mungkin bisa bantu untuk ambil foto, dan teman-teman dari UKSW bisa bantu untuk nanti backing up. Oke, silahkan. Saya mengundang teman-teman untuk mengaktifkan semua. Baik, saya mengundang teman-teman untuk mengaktifkan semua kameranya. Oke, kita mau foto cantik.
Oke, kita ada 3 layer nih. Oke, layer pertama 1, 2, 3. Oke, lagi 1 kali 1, 2, 3. Oke, sekali lagi 1, 2, 3. Oh, kayaknya.
Alright, terima kasih Mas Rahmat. Oke. So thank you also Pak Agastya for being a great host and for facilitating Makassar International Writers Festival also. Wah, kata sambutan yang sangat hangat ya, seperti kita pulang ke rumah. Okay, so without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, okay, let's just start our party. So today we are going to talk about the stories of faith from this book. They are here. So basically this book here, thank you Pupor for shipping me one, is a compilation of short stories. There are actually like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 writers here, including Ibu Pur herself. And 5 of those writers are here. Actually 6 of them, but then 5 of them are going to talk about the story that they are writing here. So for sure that we all cannot wait to hear like what is it behind their stories. Okay, so karena ada peribahasa tidak kenal maka tidak sayang, out of sight, out of mind. Karena saya ingin teman-teman untuk mengenal teman-teman writers kita juga dan menyayangi mereka. Let me read a little bit of their biography. The first one is Maria Sianovica. Do I spell it right or do I pronounce it right? I hope so, yeah. So Maria Sianovica was born in Semarang on the 50th of November 2001. Sangat muda ya, saya merasa jadi seperti old maid di sini. Okay, angkatan kesepuan. So she loves reading, and you can find her everywhere actually with the book on her hand. So in her teenage years, she has tried to do so many different fields of study, from the musical instrument to cinematography. But at the end of the day, she ended up with books and also with English literature study at Satya Wacana Christian University. So Through the anthology, Maria, I hope you don't mind me to call you Maria, hopes that the reader can also learn and experience such event in which they wouldn't otherwise or perhaps find comfort in its pages. Very lovely. So our second writers or our second speaker here is Krisela Pratiwi Grazia Mandagi. You may call her Gisela Mandagi. She is an active student of English literature at Satya Wacana Christian University. Giselle, or Sela, as what her friends always call her, was born and raised in Manado, North Sulawesi. And 3 years ago, in 2019, she decided to leave her home and came to Salatiga to pursue his studies at English literature, Satya Wacana Christian University. She loves reading, and of course, she loves writing. Otherwise, her book is not going to be here with us, yeah? And this opportunity of writing, editing, and publishing stories along with friends within the faculty has been a great experience for her. And this chance has grown more love and passion of her in literature. And she hopes that the wound, the writing would be her beginning stage to many more opportunities of sharing her writings. Really lovely. The third writers or third speaker that we are having in this event is Yosafat Andrew Gabian Cameo. You may call her Andrew Cameo. Born in Solo in 1999, and actually he has a doubt. He has a doubt of his interests, and he did not even think that his interest will lead him into the literature business or any type of writing. So Andrew himself has witnessed the characters of famous writers like Roald Dahl, Charlie, and Carlo Collodi's Pinocchio, Rudyard Kipling Mowgli, and others come to his life. So then he started to develop a love for characters and writings. So actually his writing in this anthology, okay, is always reminds in his minds and encourage his humble dream to give the life through story and let people know about the life with a clinical depression. Ooh, why clinical depression? I thought people write to get out of depression, but Andrew writes a life with clinical depression. It's very interesting. I'll come to you later. Right? So we come to the fourth writers of the event, which is Bella Valencia Pawondes, or Bella 28th on the 28th of February 2000, making her the youngest member of the family. And she is still a student of English literature at Satya Wacana Christian University. Yeah, she became interested in creative writing after finishing the high school. Oh, thanks God, she has met Ibu Purwanti and all the lovable lecturer at Satya Wacana University. Otherwise, we are not going to see her writings here. Yeah. So during Bella has already finished her study with Satya Wacana University. I apologize, Bella. But anyway, after managing to finish her study with Satya Wacana University in 3.5 years, Bella has created short story entitled "Job Searching and Working Struggles in Adventist Youth Using Psychoanalytical and Social Identity Theories." And now she is continuing her master degree in English studies at Sanata Dharma University Yogyakarta. Salam ya Bella untuk ibu saya Bu Novi di sana ya Bella.
Oh, okay.
She's my mommy. All right. So the last one is the one and only guy that not only I have known him for years, okay, during my correspondence with Purwanti and Satya Wacana University, but also I know him as a talented musician. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Kifta Purwalawang Kembara, whom people always refer as Lawang Kembara, was born in Salatiga, December the 8th of 1998, and recently just graduated from Satya Wacana Christian University. He becomes an assistant for his mother. Aduh, semoga Lawang dapat jatah ya, dapat salary. I wish you got the salary from your mother from being the assistant. Okay, and Lawang is trying to take his master degree next year. Lawang loves to hike the mountain with his family and loves to play guitar and listen to the music. I wish later on in this forum we can also hear Lawang and Aiden, you know, with their abilities in music, playing music and everything. Lawang also loves reading the books, and his favorite books is Orang-Orang Otimu from Felix Nesi, published by Martin Kiri. Oh, and also Philosophy Teras by Mas Henry Manapiri. He also loves to write because he can express what we cannot in real life. Okay, so those are the short biography from the writers whom we also going to have here as our speaker. But we forgot one person here, which is Ibu Desi. Hello, Ibu Desi. Ibu Desi Amalia sebagai penanggap kita hari ini. Hi, Ibu Desi, all is good there, yes?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Siti Badriah Desi Amalia, or Desi Amalia as we call her, is an alumni of English literatures, Satya Wacana Christian University, and at the moment she's pursuing her master degree in science psychology at Satya Wacana Christian University as well, yeah? Ibu Desi has written poems and has published that poems also in the book Sponge of Transcendence 2018. So ladies and gentlemen, I would love you to welcome our beloved speakers and also Ibu Desi in this forum by giving them that virtual clapping hands, maybe, yes? All right, thank you. I only see 1, 2, 3, and what happened to others? Okay, so basically in this forums, you know, like we are going to talk about the stories of faith according to these books. I have read the books and I cannot express like my feeling regarding to the book. I was like, so wow, the book is just so mind-blowing, and I was so flabbergasted when I read the book, yeah. But then, of course, I wanted also to know from the perspective of the writers and also the perspective of Ibu Desi herself, like, you know, how can we relate these books to our main theme in Makassar International Writers Festival, which is faith, right? But first, beforehand, out of curiosity, yeah, let me ask to our beloved speakers here. I have read these anthologies and I felt like some stories are very disturbing. A mother who would have to become a prostitute, you know, to cover, like the famous father yang jadi aktivis, ya, who become an activist, a famous activist and everything. I found it quite a little bit disturbing. Yet I found also some sweet stories which can be a combo of the story of Peter Pan and Charlie and the chocolate factory from Roald Dahl in this book. So it's just, you know, it led me to such curiosity, like how you author, what is your motivation actually in writing this kind of anthology? Jangan bilang kalau bubur yang suruh. Yeah. So who's going to start first? Maybe we start with Andrew, yeah? Andrew, maybe you can share and then later continue with Bella, Maria, Sela, and also Lawang.
Can you hear my voice? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. So the reason why I wrote my end of the anthology is because I see there's a desperate need of awareness regarding depression. Depression is a deadly disease. Apparently, 5% out of adolescents and young adults in Indonesia have this particular disease, and only 10% is able to get treatment or is even able to recognize it. So because of this, I thought that it is a very, I guess it reflects the Christian faith to help these people, to bring these people into to be known, and help thy neighbor. It's as simple as that, I guess.
So that is why in your bio, in the short biography here, you are writing about the clinical depression and everything, Andrew.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So what's next then? Maybe Sela or Maria or Bella? Okay, Bella, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. The reason behind why I wrote my paper or my story, which is When You Believe, it is because when I went to Adventist church, most of the youngsters happen to have difficulty in having a job, and it is like almost all of them, and I'm interested to put their stories in, and me as the medium to write it. So that is my main reason.
Lovely. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, if you are curious about what Bella's writings, Bella is actually writing about a young girl named Suri, a Christian, and she experienced also the, insecurity, such of insecurity. Mira, ya. Suri itu yang Andrew, ya. Sorry, Andrew, I got a little bit confused a little bit. So Bella is writing a story about a girl named Mira. She's an Adventist. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit, Bella. Tell us also about the summary of your stories. And Andrew, I would love you also to tell us the summary of your stories, which I forgot to ask, yeah?
So my story is about a girl named Mira, and she is an Adventist. And as I mentioned before, being a youngsters and being Adventist also are not immune to having difficulties in finding jobs. And one day she finally found a job, but after working for a while, 6 months, she begins to have difficulties in jobs. For example, like her friends begin to belittle her because of it seems like her taking advantage from being Adventist, and it happens throughout her work life, and she decided to quit and more focus on her religious stuff. And then, well, it seems like a miracle and kind of cliche thing, but she finally find a job that suits to her in the end.
Because we
Thank
can
you,
come with
Bella.
different
So Andrew, before I go on and before I forgot to ask you to tell us
So,
also the
okay,
summary of
that's a good
your short stories. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit about it, and then we go to Maria or Sela, and then later on end up with Lawang. Yeah, please tell us also about the summary of your short stories.
Okay, so I just need to explain a summary of my short story. Okay. My short story is about Suri. Suri is a high school girl. She has a messy room. She has trouble with class, and she is relatively, mostly sad during times when she's alone. But what makes her different is usually she carries a cutter when she's in her bed to make her feel comfortable. Comfortable from what exactly? Apparently, the cutter gives her a sort of door towards escape. The logic behind this is the cutter can be used for her to quote unquote end it all. What is the problem with Suri? Apparently, Suri has a clinical depression, has a disease called clinical depression, a condition called clinical depression. And she is struggling with it. Christian helps him along the way. After the story goes, her parents finally notice, and then she finally gets the support that she needs, and then she's finally able to live a normal life. That's basically a very short summary of the story.
Interesting. It leaves me also with a lot of questions that you have to answer later on. Yeah. All right, so next, let's go to who's next? Stella, you want to start first, or Maria, you want to start first? Please tell us a little bit of your stories and also the reason like why you wrote that stories. Oh, there you go, Stella.
Yeah. So my story is about happiness, but it's also not about happiness. So the reason I wrote the story is I feel like not all happiness comes from the real world. So that is why I wrote the story about the little girl who wants to feel happiness, which she didn't receive in her real life, and that is why she creates her own. She creates something like an artificial happiness inside of her mind, which creates her house, her own house with her own friends, and different happiness inside of her mind. I think that is the story.
That's lovely. When I first read Sela's story, I feel like it is a little bit of combo between the story of Peter Pan and also the story of Roald Dahl, Charlie and the Factory and the Chocolate Factory. Is that right? Does anyone here got this has the same feeling, or is it just me who got that kind of feeling? Okay. Yes, Sela.
I heard someone said it's kind of have the same feeling as Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, oh, that one too. Yeah. Wow. All right. Thank you, Sela. Now, shall we go to? I'll go back to you later. Now, shall we go to Maria? Hi, Maria. Then later we are going to end it up with Lawang.
Okay, so the summary of my story, titled They Were Here, is about Madeline, a student, someone who needs to verbalize her thoughts to manage it, but this caused her to be ostracized in her class. As time goes by, ostracized becomes bullying, and her need to verbalize her thoughts become a kind of illusion of a friendship that she longs for.
Lovely, lovely. And what is your motivation in writing that story?
My motivation, so
Why are you writing that kind of story? Because I mean, like, your story is about Madeline, Eileen, and Jim, right?
yes,
Seperti kayak teman hayalan, like somebody that you know you wish to have, but actually not. So what is your, how to say, like, why are you writing that kind of stories?
yes. So I was just graduated from high school when I wrote the outline for this story. And so I combined the most recent events at the time that I witnessed in my high school together with my own experience.
Lovely. All right, I'll go back to you later, Maria. And now please welcome Lawang. Lawang, could you please tell us, elaborate a little bit about the synopsis of your stories and also like the reason why you're writing that story. You're writing about the ecotourism,
Ecotourism,
yeah,
yeah.
ecotourism village, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the synopsis of the story is that actually Mr. Miko wanted to distribute the village funds. Mr. Miko here is the head of the village. But when the villager were asked what they thought the fund would be used for, they agreed that they wanted the fund to be used to build a tourist destination. But the main character here that are Mr. Tono and Jarod did not agree with that because it would be danger for their environment. Then Mr. Tono and Jarod tried to carry out their local culture while waiting for the impact of the environmental damage caused by the development of the tourist destination. And then finally, a disaster occurred, which caused them realize that the best tourist destination are those that still respect the local wisdom. So why I choose to write this story, because it is based on my experience on my way to the internship place in Tutup Ngisor, a village in Magelang district. Then on my way there, I passed several villages in Ketep, which is Merapi mountain monitoring post. And then I saw there were several selfie tourist destinations that are not harmony with the local culture there. And I think this is enough to destroy the mentality of the youth there. Like that.
Wow, such empowering, huh? I mean, like five of you are just so young and you're able to create such powerful stories. There is also some interesting points that I highlight here. Like for instance, Lawang, when you are talking about, the village, like for instance, ecotouristic village, yeah. Like you also mentioned about the importance of having, implicitly the importance of having like the local wisdoms in doing that kind of things in creating such eco village, and you also criticizing like the money given by the government, like, so it means like not really explicitly but implicitly saying like, oh, the government gave us the money, so what we have to do, shall we stick with the money or shall we also preserve the natures and everything? Do you find like how to say, like, how can you, like, do you find any difficulties in like a design or saying like, I'm going to write my kind of story in this way?
I think the difficulties is more about the how I send the message implicitly or explicitly, because I have weakness in write in systematical way and make it in sequence, so that I think it is more about the technical, not about the story. I don't really care about how will people respond to my story.
All you just want is just to read, yeah. Just to write, yeah.
Yeah.
And to deliver your
Just to write,
message,
yeah.
which is like the government like should be wise in giving their money, and also people should be also wise like in treating the environments that we are living in. Yeah. The same question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lawa. The same question goes to you, Andrew. Like you are, you are portraying a story about Suri and Christian, yes? Okay, and I can really see like from page, if I read it from the page 52 here, I can really see like, this Suri herself, instead of, a part of her being experiencing like a clinical depression, she also experienced like such insecurity because, like she listened to certain like voices saying like, oh, he doesn't really care about you. He's just being nice. Once you no longer entertain him, he'll unite with the others, da da da, di 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 di. So I know like portraying somebody with that kind of depression, clinical depression especially, and we know like most of the Indonesian don't even really know like how to treat depression or how we see people with depression themselves, right?
I mean, from this point.
So do you have any difficulties in writing this kind of stories, and how does your research go when you are writing this story?
Projects.
Yeah. Even though there is, I would say, a slight difficulty in finding sources from Indonesia, the sources from outside researching about depression is rich. Books like the DSM-5, which talk about the symptoms and the ways in order to possibly give treatment to them, is already in the book. All we need is to just open the book, read a little bit more articles regarding this topic, and I guess they already give enough explanation. What I'm trying to say basically is the source is out there. Not so much Indonesia, but more outside Indonesia.
This is also interesting. Like, how can you put it into the Indonesian context if your sources is also the, like the foreign like references?
Could you repeat it once again? Sorry.
Like most of the references that you use are from like foreign references, But then how can you put it into Indonesian context, into your stories, through the stories of through the stories of Suri and Christian?
Yeah, I guess yes. It is not fair to say that in Indonesia there is no source at all regarding depression. There certainly are articles regarding depression, and one is a 2022 article regarding this, which is done by Indonesians basically, and they actually show how much of the population have depression. So by using this single Indonesian article, certainly I could correlate the problems of depression in Indonesia.
Interesting. Well, for the Ibu Desi, saya bukan maksudnya untuk ngacangi atau untuk ini ya Bu Desi ya, atau untuk ini, but let me just give a little bit of space to them, and I'll come back to you. I promise. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to go back to you again very soon, because I also have such an interest with this kind of things, and I was quite a little bit amazed when I read your stories, especially regarding to the depression. But let me remind to all of you here, teman-teman, kalau umpamanya teman-teman nanti ada pertanyaan, silahkan teman-teman menulis di kolom chat, mau ditujukan kepada siapa, kalau teman-teman sudah membaca bukunya, ataupun kalau yang belum pun nanti tetap aja bisa mengajukan pertanyaan. And we are going to kayak kita akan select siapa yang bisa, siapa nanti bisa raise hand atau apa di sesi tanya jawab ya. Alright, so let us continue to Bella. Okay, Bella, you are telling the stories about Mira, an Adventist, a golden child of Pak Stevens, who becomes such a kayak buah bibir ya when she's working in a company. Like, have you ever experienced such a things in your workplace or anything? Like, what motivated you in writing these stories anyway?
Okay, so the inspiration comes from my resources, which are the young Adventist people in the Adventist church, and one of them named Deborah. And she mentioned that in 2019, she worked at one company in Balikpapan, is Kalimantan. And she mentioned that in her workshop, she actually going well with her friends. Everyone is befriend with her, but after she asked permission several times to go to the church at Saturday, they begin to belittle her, and it happens for a month or 2 months. So it is the same like my story. And she eventually quit her job, and she mentioned that she believed that she will still find a job, even though it is not in that company, because finding a job as Adventist itself is already hard. But she decided to quit her job. And for the inspiration of the contract, especially, I get the experience from my sister. She's here, and she experienced her being accepted in one company, and when she read the contracts, it said that she is allowed to work at Saturday, but after the second interview, they mentioned that, we cannot accept you because you have to work at Saturday. So it is my inspiration to write my story.
Lovely. Thank you, Andrew, Lawang, and Bella, who wrote the story based on their own experience. Jadi teman-teman nanti kalau seumpamanya ada, kembali lagi mengingatkan teman-teman kalau nanti mau ada pertanyaan atau apa, silahkan tulis di kolom chat, atau kalau mau ngomong silahkan nanti raise hand. Tolong teman-teman dari UKSW nanti bantu saya ya untuk kayak noticing siapa yang raise hand atau kalau ada pertanyaan ya. Okay, all right. Now let me go to Gisela and Maria. Both of you share like similar writings, all coming from the imagination. Like for instance, Sila's writing about Gia and Mr. Pink, to me, like what I've said before, is a little bit like the story of Peter Pan and Roald Dolls, and a little bit of Alice in the Wonderland, like what you've said, as well as Maria with imagination friends, Eileen and Jim. Is it hard for you too, like to put your imaginations into the story? I know like the story itself is a form of imagination, but is it hard to put that imagination of imagination into that story? You've got what I mean, yeah? Oh, Sela, you are still on mute.
I think it wasn't that hard for me because I try to see from little girl perspective, and I am really close with little children, and that is why I can try to understand what they want, what they desire, and that is why the story is really bright. Um, so yeah.
Lovely. What about you, Maria? How come you can, like, how could you, how can you, like, you come up with an idea about Madeline, Eileen, and Jim? And I think it's quite a little bit dark as well, the story.
Yes, so besides the motivation that I said earlier, this story is also motivated by my own field. So when I was in high school, I witnessed this a classmate of mine getting ostracized from the class, but I cannot do anything, and so I want to pour the guilt into paper. But about Eileen and Jim themselves, I was blessed with great friendship when I was in high school. And so it's more of a gesture of gratefulness to my friends that I didn't know what to do if they were not with me at the time.
Oh, it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. So basically, like, you also pour like what you experienced, during your hardest time into the story, yeah? Through your imagination, friends. Oh, interesting, interesting. Okay, one last question, because to 5 of you before I go to Ibu Desi. Ibu Desi, are you ready to have a date with me after this? Yeah. Okay. So one last question for, but not the least. Sorry, the least question, but not the last. So I know that it's quite a little bit hard, like to pour your thought and your feelings, and also your research. Like, for instance, Andrew tells about the depression. Lawang tells about the, like, what happens with the government money and the tourism or anything. Bella tells about, like, what she experienced at work. Sela and Maria as well. So, like, gimana sih, kayak how you put your soul into your writing? Gimana cara menjiwai tulisan-tulisan kalian itu, gitu loh. Siapa yang mau mulai duluan? Mungkin Andrew atau Sela?
I could probably start first. I guess how I can continue keeping doing the research and the writing of the story is probably because the topic itself is interesting. Because lots of people are in desperate need of help in Indonesia, and I think that is something that, as a Christian, you should help these people. You should love thy neighbor, exactly as I mentioned before. You should take care of these people to make sure that, certainly the word of God is spread, but certainly even as a human being, not only as a Christian, helping others is usually should be your priority for, if you have the possibility.
Tapi susah nggak sih, Andrew? But it's hard to be like so difficult, like to put your soul into your writing. Tapi caranya menjiwai itu bagaimana? Like, how can you put your soul, kayak menjiwai banget tulisanmu tentang si Suri dan si Christian ini?
Probably is to embody the character herself. Probably, I grew feelings towards the character, towards Suri herself, and try to relate with her. If try to relate the character of Suri, and by that, I guess it is possible, as you said, to continue writing.
Lovely, lovely. But how to say, like, you do not have to act like you are experienced, or you are under depression while you are writing.
No, certainly no.
Semoga
Yeah.
semoga Andrew tidak depres ya ketika writing atau ketika disuruh pupur untuk ayo nulis. Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. What about Sila and Maria? Also, Bella and Lama.
I think one way to put my soul in the story is be the character. Like you have to feel what she feels, think what she thinks, and think about what would she say or what would she do.
But isn't it like so difficult, Sela? Because like your character here, Kia, I think like I got the feeling that she's also experienced loneliness. That's why she's living in that kind of, imaginational world with Mr. Ping and Sierra, Manda, and Wanda.
I think I was inspired also with my feeling at that time. So I was feeling a little undermotivated, and the characters in the story are based on my friends. So for example, the twins. I have a twin cousins who were really close to me. That is why I put twin Quokka in the story. So yeah.
Lovely. So the moral of the story, teman-teman, kalau mau menulis silahkan merasa lonely dulu seperti Sela, nanti baru dapat ide untuk menulis ya. Okay, what about you, Maria? You also, your story is also about the such, like out of nowhere world, sex fictional world, about Madeline, Eileen, and Jim. Okay, so how can you put yourself into Madeline, or have you ever wanted to have such, like fictional friends or imaginary friends like Eileen and Jim when you experience loneliness before?
So the short answer is yes. I do often feel lonely, and I am the kind of person who needs like someone else. But then I also think that observation is really important to put your soul into the writing. Of course, I'm still in the beginning of my journey to write, so I don't know if this is a good example. But I also think of an alternative. So I look into my past and I think, what do I have to do to solve that as I am right now? Something that I regret in the past that I can fix in my present self. And so that's how I put my soul in my writing.
So another moral of the stories, ladies and gentlemen, jadi silahkan kalau if you want to write some things, if you want to write a short story, silahkan experience bullying and also loneliness like these beloved writers. I hope not. Okay. Right. Thank you, Lawang, Andrew, Sela, Maria, and also Bella. So I'll leave you for a second first. So let me just have a little bit of date with Ibu Desi. So Ibu Desi, I heard that you have ever wrote a poem before and it was published, yes?
Yeah.
Could you, so before we go to our core date, could you share a little bit your experience as a writer?
Oh, well, to be honest, being a writer is not easy at all, because at first I think that writing will be, it's easy. But then when I came into it, the pressure in my head was so big. Like, I wrote my poem under pressure, and that's why usually the theme of my poem is based on what I felt at the time. That's it.
So have you have you ever experienced such difficulties also in like transferring what you've been thinking, your thought, into your poems or something?
Yeah, like I do writing for like telling people what I feel, but at some point I don't want people to know what I feel, something like that. So I think for a way how to conceal it nicely. So I repeatedly look for a word that can, that can hide my feelings.
Interesting. Well, I'm a huge fan of poems also, Ibu Desi. So I wish like I look forward to, like reading one of your poems also very soon. Anyway, so regarding to these talented 5 writers that we have here, who we also know they are also our speakers. Yeah. So how would you see? I assume that you have already read your writings, yes, in this anthology. So what is your opinion in general when you see the writings?
The writing is amazing, but sad. I don't know. The tone is really dark. Like when I read it, I really hope, I do hope that the authors of this book don't really experience what they wrote here, because I don't want that to happen to anyone.
Yeah, well, that is exactly like the first impression that I got when I read about these. When I read about these, how to say, like when I read about these, the anthology of these stories. Yeah. But then, how to say, like it is also somehow the story are also so relatable to our life, right? Like when like before our speakers also say, like some of them would have to do with the emotional baggage or something. Like most of them wrote about this based or due to their experience. So, how would you see the connections? How would you see the connection between one psychological side to a writing, in your opinion, as a writer, Ibu Desi?
Things to a writing. So actually, writing and psychology are not two things that should be separated, because I believe in writing process or even the writing itself, people should include, research. And especially when they want to write about people, then they should know psychological things first. Like, for example, in this book, I saw so many psychological problems, like from loneliness that can lead to clinical depression, and then some hallucinations, and then trauma. And I saw that the authors here have done a really, really great research, because actually they have, included some coping mechanism and how when people facing difficult times. For example, the happy cupcakes. It reminds me of gadis penjual korek api. Probably, I don't know if you know that, because I'm probably old here and it's pretty old cartoon. So in that time of difficulties, people tend to look for a safe place to hide. And that's how psychological stuff work in writing, I guess. So the authors must know a lot about human and their feelings.
So so in sort of you just wanted to say like psychological side or is also important for in writing, because it's also influence the characterizations in their writings. Very interesting, Ibu Desi. Is that your opinion as a psychologist or as a writer herself?
Both.
Okay, interesting. Right, so I'll go back to you in a while, Ibu Desi, because I saw like there are like two questions here.
Okay.
The first one is from Mbak Deta. The question is like, hello riders. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you. And second, I'm wondering of how you manage to do the editing, since editing is something in quotation. I know editing is so difficult, yeah. The second one is from my Gary Razak, asking like, I have the question for the writers, like in writing a story, especially writing story that directed to the characters, do you guys build the character as a whole before fully writing the story itself? Like, for instance, like you make a story or you make a character named Lisa, and then later you make like full design for the characters or doodle sketch whatsoever it is. So I think like Ibu Deta or Mas Gary, do you want to like open your microphone and ask the speakers yourself, sorry.
Okay, quindi Luca sta.
Hello, Mbak Deska.
Hai Ibu Deta, ketemu lagi kita ya.
Yeah,
After a while, yes.
basically you have read my questions. Although I know that some of them are my students, I was just wondering how they manage the editing. I asked this because there are other students are here too, so that they can inspire on the making of the book, so that more and more writers will publish their books.
Oh, thank you. So I just answered the question from Ibu Deta first. What about the editing? Two gentlemen and three ladies here. Okay. Who wants to start first? What about no, Andrew? You have already given the chance, so let's go for the female domination first. Dari tadi Andrew terus, ayo mulai dulu dari mungkin Bella. What do you think? What about the editing process?
In terms of editing, sure, it is the tough part of writing. After writing, well, I try to edit it for myself, and it is still exhausted. But during this process of making the story, first of all, I have to say thank you to Bubur and the editor teams, because they helped me a lot in the editing process. And I'm wondering of how you managed to do the editing. Actually, in this process of editing, I didn't do too much, but the editor team did most of the jobs. That is why. And how I manage it right now is making sure there is no making sure there is no mistakes in, especially spellings, and try to be as detailed as possible. Yeah, that is my suggestion.
Lovely. Thank you, Bella. What about you, Lawang? Could you share a little bit about your editing process?
Okay. Maybe it is related with your question before about how I got the soul of my character. So I want to say thank you to the editor team of this anthology of the short story, because they helped me to trigger my my knowledge to make sure that I'm delivering the the message of the story. So for me to manage the editor is just I need to obey what they said and just follow what they want, because I think the editor have the wider perspective. And I think sometimes it is annoying for me because they always ask me many questions that sometimes I also cannot answer it, and I just follow what they want, because I believe that it will bring me to the good. It will bring my story to the next level, I think. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, Budeta, the story will be brought to the next level with the better editing. Lawang said, wow. What about the others? What about Sela, Bella, and Maria? Of course, before you give it to the main editors, you also edit a little bit. Do you find it difficult, like to edit the stories yourself? Oh, sorry, Sela, Maria, and Andrew, yeah?
Okay, so I want to answer this question. So editing was really complicated. For the editing that I did myself, I read it over and over, and I open a new page to maybe rewrite a few things. But when I hand it to the editor team, I try to apply any inputs from the editors as much as possible and rationalize a few points that I didn't want to change. That way, my logic was challenged and I was able to be aware of my flaws.
Interesting. What about you, Sela and Andrew? I'm curious. Who's going to go first? Andrew? Yes, thank you.
Editing in my part is involved negotiating between ideas that I want to communicate and ideas what by the editors think that it is necessary to insert. So I have to go back with the editors to negotiate with them. Is this idea all right to be written? Is this too much? Or is this not relevant to what the main topic is? Because even though I have the main story in my head, it is not. I think to call it perfect is not good. Other people need to read it and then give input, and that's what the editors are there for. So because of that, I'm able to find mistakes in tenses, mistakes in grammars, and also mistakes in ideas. And this interaction of negotiating what is right and what is wrong is, I think, very important to create a perfect, close to perfect story.
Interesting. So basically, we can say like editing process is very important also to support the story side. And what about you, Sela?
I think the others have shared wide answers about this question, but I just want to add that editing really helps making a better story, and editors really helps in seeing the story in different perspective and different ideas, and commenting on our stories makes us realize our flaws in the story. So yeah, editing really helps in making a perfect story.
Perfect. So basically, we all agree that a great editing will also make a great stories. Yeah. So kudos to your editors. Because the story is just so wow to our eyes, and I must say, like, I was flabbergasted when I read like the stories. It's so sweet, yet it's, even though it's dark, but then it's also so relatable to the eye, to our life. And I believe like Ibu Desi also agree with the statement. Yes, Ibu, yeah. Right. And there is also the next question from Mas Gary. Mas Gary Raza. Mas Gary, yes. Hello, Mas Gary. Do you want to how to say, like? Do you want to ask them your own questions?
Sure. My pleasure.
Yes.
All right. Hello. Thank you for the time. I have a question for the writers. In writing a story, especially writing a story that directed to the character, do you guys build the character as a world before fully writing the story itself? Like, as an example, I will make a character named Lisa or whatever character I want to make. So before I write the story into a book, I will make, as an example, I will make a full design for the character, like a doodle sketch of what will the character looks like, and then I'll give her personality traits, like whether she's introverted or extroverted. Then I'll give her hate, her hobbies, her family problems, and etc. Like, my point is, do you make the character or design the character first, or you make the character as the story goes? Thank you very much.
Okay, so do you guys make the story as a whole first? Like for instance, Lawang mau pikir, oh aku ke Pak Miko dan everything, the character will be like this, or you just, write the story first and then it just go like that. Sorry, yeah.
Okay. So to make the whole character, I just write the maybe 2 or 3 points about their personality, and then for how the character looks like, yeah, I just write his or her height, or maybe his clothes or something like that, because I actually cannot draw any sketch, so that I found difficulties to I have the imagination in my head, but I cannot deliver it on the points that I make. Like,
So basically, you make the story, you make the character first, and then you go on the stories. Yes, Lawang,
yeah,
yes?
yeah.
Interesting. So, what about you, Maria?
Okay, I think it is a great way to characterize, especially if you're an artist and if you can draw the character yourself. But I also think that it will be better for a long serialization. However, for a short story, I focus on the personality. The physical comes second unless it is necessary for the plot.
Interesting. So another way of writing a story, yeah. Thank you, Maria. What about you, Sela?
I would say it is better to picture the character wholly, physically and psychologically or personality, with the personality in the beginning. But it is also possible to add more to adapt the character later in the story.
Thank you, Sela. Very much lovely. What else? Whom else? Bella and Andrew. Do you guys make like the character in a whole first, or do you guys, just make the character as the story goes? Andrew?
Bella? Okay, okay. During the creation of my story, it begins with finding the problem first. But certainly, I need to create the character. So in that sense, I created the story first, Mr. Gary, and then I created the character. But in order for me to stick to the story, I think it is very important to visualize the character, so that possibly make the character as real as possible, so that they became part of you, and you have the motivation to continue to write. And my case in point is probably I actually draw a little bit, and I draw Suri trying to imagine the character. I would like to give you a very brief look at how Suri looks. And actually, by drawing Suri, I am able to be motivated and imagine the character. So here, a little bit, I wonder if you can see here, right here. So this is, oops. Yeah, so this is
Oops,
Suri.
That's cutie.
Yep. Yep. And after this, I am able to visualize the character more and continue writing and still be motivated. So trying to make her as a real person. But certainly in my case, the story started with research regarding the problem first. All right, thank you.
Wow, interesting. So anyone, if you happen to know like how Suri looks like, you can just, like see from from Andrew's drawing. Very lovely. So Andrew is not only talented in writing, but also talented in drawing. Yeah. Lovely. So Pupur, I think like the next book will be I'm going to see like a little bit of caricatures or something in it. Yeah. All right, the last one, Bella.
So in terms of how I determine the characters, as I mentioned before, my story and my inspiration of the story are based from the real life of the youths of Adventist people. And what I do to determine the character of Mira is I gather reviews from these people, these young people, and I try to combine their personalities in which how they would react if they meet with this problem, and what will they do after they are facing this kind of problems. And I put all of them in Mira. So Mira is the combination of all the Adventist youth reactions and personalities. And for the main plot, comes also as the compilation also of these peoples and their stories.
Lovely. So basically, from like 5 of you got such different method or different ways, right, in building your characters. Yeah. Some of you just build the characters as a whole first, and some of you, like do a little bit of both, like building the character as a whole and building it as the story is going. Very much interesting. So I wish it answers also your question, Mas Gary. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I also saw before Mas Agastya and Mas Eria raising their hand and also ask questions. Either Mas Eria or Mas Agastya, first, would you like to open your would you like to unmute your microphone and also and speak it out?
Okay. Maybe I first or Pak Rio?
You can start.
I can start. Okay.
We start from.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I read there is a posting by Udeta when she asked that editing is something. Yeah. Now I just want to know. Maybe any of you wants to share the experience that you have during the editing process, because I do believe editing can change the storyline or can change also the basic idea of your writing. Now, did any of you experience changes or change during the editing? And then how much negotiations or how much negotiations was made during the editing? Because I think this is very important when we talk about authorship, then the editor can be also, the editor also can direct your story. So actually, yeah. I think that the question is, did any of you experience experience changes during the editing, and also how negotiations were or was made.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, during those editing process, yeah, how would you negotiate with the main editors, and do you experience also a major changing or something? I guess that is the question, ya Mas Agastya, yeah. Yes. All right. So who wants to answer first? Let's start with Sela, shall we?
Okay. Well, editing process is bittersweet, but there are parts where I don't want to accept the input from editors, and there are parts that really woke me up. For example, if I remember correctly, there are comments when editor said that swan cannot make smoothies. I haven't seen a swan make smoothies, but I want to keep that idea that it is my imagination. It is the character's imagination. So I want to stick with that in my story. So in my story, the swan makes smoothies. And also what really helps me in the editing is inputs where the editor said that little girl don't speak a lot, don't speak like in full sentences, in long sentences. And there I want, in my previous writings, I wrote in long sentences, and that input really helps me. That makes me realize that yeah, that is true, that little kids speak in short speeches, so I changes the speeches and short sentences. So yeah, that is my experience in editing.
Thank you, Sela. What about the others? Maria or Bella?
Quindi, perché noi
Andrew,
poi
Lawan?
facciamo così, nel senso non tutti partecipavano all'operationalize, però
Siapa dulu nih?
partecipava il manager che poi faceva il team meeting.
Mau
I
Bella?
will try.
Oh, Maria. Okay.
Nel local.
So personally, I think I was the one who crossed the line in terms of changing the story at the time. But the editor team were able to keep my feet on the ground and remind me of the premise of my story. Therefore, I think the editor team who had a great idea of your story is very important to the editing process.
Va bene, però
Simple. But, well, yeah. Thank you, Maria. What about Bella, Andrew, and Lawan for the editing process?
Okay, maybe
So I will go first.
Oh,
Oh, it's Lawang,
Okay.
sorry, the moderator.
oh, sorry.
Okay, Lawang, go first.
Okay, sorry. For the major editing, if the editor asks me to change all of the story, that I will just follow what they want. But actually, I don't really have any major editing because most of my story are deleted because they thought that there are a lot of ornaments that is unnecessary. So yeah, I have no problem with that.
Then what about you, Bella, and then Andrew?
Okay, so I will be first. In terms of editing process with the editor team, well, sure, there are lots of changes that happen. For example, my story length is 14 or 16, if I'm not mistaken, and then the editor teams cut it into like 9 or 10. And there are also other details that were cut in the stories, but the good thing about it, the editor team always asks to me, what about if we cut this part? I think it is unnecessary. It is too long to be explained. And also the edited team gave me lots of insights of how the story should go logically. It means that the story should not be like too childish, or it is kind of too cliche. And I agree with some of the editor's comments, and I also disagree in some of them, and I give my reasoning, and they accepted my feedbacks, and we collaborate the story until it becomes like now. And what I feel is I don't feel any great changes that makes my story different. It is still the same, and it is more compact. So that are the things that I expect.
And what about you, Andrew? Before I go on my question on this kind of things too.
I did not have any major changes in my story. I think I initially wanted to write about depression, and I believe that is what Ms. Purwanti find interesting, and that is why she brought me into this anthology. The Mrs. Purwanti and the editors respected my ideas. A very small edits were given. For example, here, I remember that I was writing about the messiness of Suri's room, which approximately is around 5 to 6 sentences. The editors thought that is too much, but I thought that it was necessary because there needs to be a visualization, or it needs to be established that Suri has a problem shown by her room, and we negotiated that, and then they thought that, okay, I guess you should keep that, and then we kept that. Other edits probably revolve around grammar and all of tenses, and those are probably the edits in my case.
Do you, when you were writing like your first draft, like for instance, do you guys also focus on the cultural terms which later you negotiate also with the editor? Wants to answer? Oh, Andrew, yes.
No, I was trying to ask, what was the question about cultural terms?
No, I was thinking like when you deal with your first draft of the writing, like for instance, do you have any cultural terms that you need to negotiate with your editor also for this one?
I didn't have. I avoided cultural terms actually in the beginning, so probably anyone else could answer.
And what about the others, ladies and one gentleman here? Lawan, or Sila, or Maria, or Bella, do you use like the cultural terms in your first draft that you need to negotiate later with the editors? If yes, and then how would you negotiate it? I know it's a similar question, but it's based on my curiosity, because I know it is not so easy. It is not easy like to translate the cultural terms. Yeah.
Yeah, I use some of it. So yeah, I just need to find maybe the word that closely have the same meaning. So yeah, Yeah, I think I'm trying to use the dictionary and then translate it to Bahasa Indonesia first. Because some of the terms I use in Javanese word, I translate it to Bahasa Indonesia first, and then I translate it once again to to English.
Wow. So you have to do like the double work, guy.
Yeah.
Oh, but then what about the other? Gisela, Maria, or Pena? Have you used the translation? Or sorry, have you used the cultural terms that need to be negotiated with the editor?
My story, I didn't use any cultural terms, so there was no negotiation about it.
Maria and Bella?
I'm also the same with Gisela. My story doesn't have any cultural term that I need to negotiate.
Oh, interesting. What about you, Bella?
The same with me. I don't use cultural terms to input in my story.
So there is nothing to negotiate, yeah, with the editor when it comes to the cultural terms. Interesting. All right. So I also saw Mas Ariel before raising the hand. Mas Ariel, would you like to shout it out?
Oh, yeah. Okay. First of all, congratulations, all writers. I'm so proud of you. My first question is actually very similar to that of Akali. I asked about the editing process, which Ibu Geta also referred to it. But my second question is a bit more personal. I asked about the personal battle between you and yourself in the editing process. I asked how similar or how different your versions are from the initial until to the final version. There was editing process, but the question is how intense was that? The discussions between you and yourself in the editing process. That will be my second question, Deska. Thank you very much.
Sorry. So the first question is what, Mas Ariel? I heard the
It is
echo.
similar to it is similar to Akali's question.
How?
Yeah, it is similar to.
And then the second one is?
How intense was the personal battle between themselves? I mean, because they knew that they had to verify something. How difficult was that for them to accept that they have to change something?
Okay. So, dear speakers, the question from Mas Ariel is, the first one is like Pak Kali, Mas Agassia, so but the second one is like in terms of personal matters, like how would you accept the writings, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that is the questions. Okay, who wants to start first, maybe Sena, Maria, Lawang, or Andrew? Bella, you want to start first?
Okay, so Pario's question is, how intense was your personal battle came to negotiating your own idea? In my opinion, especially relating to the story, my personal battle is not that hard. It is just the motivation to keep writing that is hard. And meanwhile, the idea to write the idea of Adventist, I don't have any intense battle because it is representing one of my family members' experience, and I don't have any personal battle with that because I want to also promote Adventism. And the intense battle that I've mentioned before is about the motivation to keep writing. So you need to keep writing from day one until day two, like slowly writing. That is the intense battle. also happen to the other writers who have writer's block, and how we need to handle that. Yeah, that is the hardest.
Okay. So Lawang, how hard it is for you like to accept the changes in your editing process or in your in your stories?
Okay. I think when I was got writer's block, like what Bella said before, I just try to close my file first, and then continue it tomorrow. And I always do it. What is it? Every day, maybe for at least an hour until 2 hours, and then after that I close it, because I don't want to get stressed, because when I write, I need to think more harder than before. So for the personal battle, I think I don't have any personal battle that I need to face, because I make it relax. So I like just what I mentioned, but I have mentioned before, I just work for 1 until 2 hours and make it relax. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting. So one does basically you do not have any personal battles when it comes to the changes. But what about you, Andrew, and the clinical depression that you keep portraying in your stories? You are not experience any clinical depressions, right? Because that is worrying if you do.
Not at the moment, not yet. No.
Oh, I hope not.
No. I negotiating between the ideas, I think, was not especially a problem at my part. Only I wanted to add a little bit more details, as I've mentioned before, when trying to explain about depression, and editors thought that it is too much, and I had to negotiate. Oh no, I think that this is necessary, and we went back and forth. Some things needed to be erased, some things needed to be kept, but overall, there are not major changes, not too hard of negotiating either. Yeah.
Interesting. So even with all that, even with all that depressed, writing that you keep portraying, you do not have any depression regarding to the editing. Well done. Oh, okay, what about Stella and Maria?
So as for a personal battle, I explained before that I almost changed many aspects of my story. I almost changed the conflict, and I have changed the ending before, which the editor team did not agree to, which I'm very grateful for. I was watching a lot of horror movies at the time, and I impulsively changed my story into that direction. As a result, I lost sight of my original premise of my story for a while. But thankfully, the editor team managed to help me in that regard.
Kudos to the editor team. Pupor, you've done a great job, Pupor. Okay, what about the others? Okay, last one, Stella. Yes.
I think if I want to be selfish, I want my story to be like I want it to be. But I have to understand that the story is not made just for myself, and keeping that in mind, making me open to inputs and changes. So I think I have to be selfless in the process of editing.
Interesting. Oh, So as you are the last one who answered here, Gisela, I also have a question from you from Alexander Parudagaman. Okay, the first one is, do you include some of your past experience or backgrounds into your story Happy Cupcake? If so, what aspect of your lives are relevant to the stories? The second one of all is, like you said, that you were inspired by the children you are close with, so you understand how they feel and what they think. I wonder if you did any research about children before writing the story. If so, what theory did you apply to your writings, if any? So the first one is the aspect of your life that relevant to the story, and the second one is if you conducted any research about the children's and what kind of theory that you are using, if any.
Okay, so the first question is quite personal. We're not gonna go deep into it, but yes, I think it reflects on my childhood when I imagine having my own happiness. And about the research, because I wrote the story in my first year in the university in 2019, I haven't learned about research before writing. So what I did was a small observation around my surroundings, which I found in children around me. And I portrayed the little girl, Gia, based on what I see in my nieces. And for the problem, as stated before, it is partly based on my experience.
Thank you. But have you ever conducted any research on the children, Sila? Yeah?
When I wrote the story, I did observation, but when editing, the editing of this, the last editing of the story was last year. So it is after learning about research. So yeah, the editing, the research was, I think part of the research was added in the editing process.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you. And another questions come to Mas Lawang. Earlier you said that it is based on your experience. Do you experience it yourself, or do you heard it from the people you live that live there? The second one of all, I wonder, did you put any supernatural things that relate to the environments? Yang tanya itu Elizabeth Lawang. Jadi mungkin Elizabeth mikir kamu ini semacam dukun atau cenawang yang bisa kayak putting any supernatural thing related to the environment.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Maybe I'll try to answer the first question first. Do you experience it yourself or you heard it from the other people? Yes, I have experience to live with them. So because I have earlier explained, I had to do an internship there, so I had to stay at Tutup Nisor for about a week. But however, I have already visited them and sleep over there for many times before, so I know what actually they do related with my story. Because they have a ritual that to to protect the environment. And then for the second question, did you put any supernatural things related to the environment? In my story, I thought that I don't put any supernatural things, but if the readers think that it is supernatural, yeah, it depends on them. But I don't think that I put any supernatural. And then maybe I also want to answer Ariel Madila question.
Okay. Yes, yes, please.
He have 2 questions. So for the first question, maybe what encourages you to put ecotourism, what I initially perceive as environmental consciousness as the theme of the story. So at first I thought that ecotourism is a medium for the villages to develop their tourism. But in the reality, ecotourism built in the village actually damages the village. An example is the selfie spot built with the low safety standards. Whereas actually, if we follow the rules of the ecotourism, then we only need to see the daily life of the farmers in the village. And then a real example that maybe I can share it here is when I was on the way to Katop, and then there is a hill beside the road. Because of the too many tourist destinations related with the ecotourism, when the rainy seasons coming, there is a landslide, which is quite disturbing the mobility of the traffic at that time. And then for the mentally, it is destroy the mental of the youth there. For example, the youth in the Chundal village, in the village which is the base camp for the Merbabu mountain climbing route. The youth there prefer to maintain the parking lot rather than running what their parents have built in the past, such as maintaining the base camp or farming. And then for the second question from Ariel, I think the ritual itself is actually an effort to protect the environment, because in Indonesia, many people still believe in mystical things. And I think through ritual, it can protect the environment, because many people still think that a ritual is a mystical thing. But actually, ritual is a form for us to give a gratitude for what the nature has given to us. I hope that can answer your question.
Oh, interesting. Interesting, Lawang. Yeah, but then I saw also a lot of not a lot, but then some of the Indonesian literatures also use such kind of mysticisms. Yeah, when it deals with the environment and well, it deals with the environmental things. And I think Lawang is just one of the writers that resembles also the things. Thank you, Lawang, for the answer. So. I saw also Pak Jefferson is raising hand. Yeah, Pak Jefferson, would you like to say something, Pak?
Thank you, Ibu Rizka, for the opportunity. And also thank you for Ibu Pur, who have allowed me to join and enjoy this very beautiful, wonderful, fantastic occasion. I really appreciate Ibu Pur and also the committee who have been making this opportunity possible. What my point is, as a lecturer, I am not, I don't have any background in literature, Ibu Deska. I am a lecturer at the Faculty of Law, Satya Christian University. The same both with Ibu Pur and also Pak Rio and Pak Agasta. I think this is a wonderful effort because all these younger writers are lifted up to the stage, especially in this at this time in this virtual room. But this is very important stage for this young writer. I have been following almost more than 2 hours, and this is very interesting. How they learn to write, how they put things together, the process of editing. This is wonderful. This will not happen in my faculty because this is very difficult things. And more than that, these writers are writing things in English, which is not their mother language. So this is very difficult. And this is excellent. So once again, thank you very much for FBS, Satya Wacana, Pak Rio, Ibu Pur, especially. My question is, if I see the title of the book, okay, the title is "They Are Here." I don't, as I said before, I don't have any background in the literature, but the word "they" is interesting for me. So this is, so that's why I raised this question. I would like to ask to all the writers, and especially if Ibu Pur be very happy to give a comment. When I see this title, "They," what comes to my mind is they. Apart from all the characters, they in this case, I think Ibu Pur and also friends, all the writers should respond to my idea. Is this right or not? They in this case is problem. So as Ibu Desi said, sad stories. So problem. But all of these problems, all of these chain novel, in the law we call it chain novel, something that is connected with the rest in one particular book. All of these chain novels is concerning a very sad story, which is disease, starting from Andrew, which is depression, and also Galang. Lawang said the problem about environmental problem, and also the rest. And Bella about religious problem, the right and the freedom of religion, which is very difficult. I think it is also very sad story. All of them is this, are they all these writers, including Ibu Pur, think that this is they, so they are here. So if the reader would like to read about they, all of this problem, the reader can read this book, and there are solution there. The solution is faith. Is this okay? My interpretation? It seems like something like that. So I would like all the readers via Ibu Deska to make a confirmation whether I am, as a layman, someone who does not understand about literature at all, has already been interpreted properly about all the.
All right.
Thank you very much, Ibu Deska.
You're welcome, Pak Jefferson. Well, basically, there are so many ways to interpret such a literary works. But then, I'm going to just to lift it up to our speakers of the day. What do you guys think about Pak Jefferson's interpretations on the word "they" in our novels? Let's start by another cameo here. Andrew, Miss Pak Jefferson cameos Junior. Oh, Andrew is out. Oh, what about Lawang? Lawang, what do you think of the interpretations? This is going to be like we are going to after this we are going to have like two more questions and we are going to end the session. So Lawang, what do you think about Pak Jefferson's how to say like the interpretations on the word "they"?
I think, yeah, maybe Pak Jefferson and the other readers have different interpretation, and I like this interpretation about our books, and I am very thank you to Pak Jefferson who have already read my story, and I don't think that there is right or wrong interpretation here because everyone who read the books have their own meaning. And maybe they have it. It may make them remember their memories in the past after they read this book. That is from, in my opinion.
Okay. And what about the other writers here? Do you go in accordance with Lawang or do you have your own opinions here? Bella, Stella, and Maria. I think Andrew went MIA. Yeah. Who wants to start first, Bella? Yes.
So Pak Jefferson question is it true that they in the title is the problems of the stories that provided in the book?
Yeah. So it is one of the
in my perspective. Yeah, it is his present interpretation, and I believe they in here not represent the problem, but they in here represent the marginal peoples. Well, the marginals, not only the problem, but the identity of marginal people. And I think that is the reason why put they are here. It includes the marginal people. Sorry, I made the wrong mistake. I think, yes, they are here are the marginalized people and their problems. So they are one combination of and put it into one, which is they, which are they. I think the interpretation of Jefferson is correct.
Do you guys also agree with what Bella and Lawang says? Stella, Maria?
Yeah, I agree. I think the interpretation is really good interpretation. I agree with that.
Yeah. What about you, Maria?
Yes, I think Pak Jefferson's interpretation is wonderful, and yes, I think every person can find a little bit of themselves in the characters in this book. And I hope that with the theme of this conference, faith, every people can solve and seek help of their problems.
So, yeah, so you heard the question, Pak Jefferson, and according to me also, like, basically there are so many ways to interpret literature. Yeah, and like your interpret, and there is no right or wrong when it comes to the interpretation of literature. And like your interpretation is right, and as well as some other interpretations. Bella also says like uh, they will refer to like the marginalized people and the problems. But if we take a look also at Andrew's writing, they can also how to say, like, refer to those whatever the characters have in mind. Like, for instance, the life they are living, what's the work they want to be, and everything. So that is, I think, the beauty of literature itself, that there is no right or wrong in interpreting things. I hope it answers your question, Pak Jefferson. Yeah. So, due to the limitation of times, I would like to ask like one last questions to all the speakers here. Like, if you can relate your writing to Makassar International Writers Festival theme, which is faith, peace, and harmony, what would that be? Maybe we can just make it short. Yes. Andrew, if you want to start first before, because you went MIA, and I'm afraid that you went MIA again, that you go MIA again. Is Andrew's here? Andrew's,
Yes,
yeah.
please. What is the question?
The question is, if you can relate your writing to Makassar International Writers Festival theme, which is faith, peace, and harmony, what would that be? How would you connect it?
Yes. Wait a second. There we go. Okay. In order to make a relation between my part of the story and the Makassar, the fair, this particular event, I think I would like to refer to James 2nd, verse 17, which says that faith without action is dead. And as you can see, faith here need to be complemented by action, and the action needs to be something that needs to reflect a good person or a good Christian. A couple of those examples is by loving thy neighbor. Seen from here, my story wants to spread awareness regarding clinical depression. And that is a form of loving thy neighbor. So I think in that sense, my story helps people to be more faithful.
Interesting. Thank you, Andrew. So what about others? Maybe we can just keep it short. Yes. Bella? Oh, you are still on mute, okay?
Pardon, can you repeat the question?
The question is, like, if you can relate your story to Makassar International Writers Festival theme of the year, which is faith, harmony, and peace, what would that be? Maybe everyone, can you keep it short? Yeah, due to the run of time.
Oh, okay. So my story and the connection with faith is, first of all, it is the same like Andrew. We need to look at the Bible, and if we look at James 2 verse 18, in which the faith without action is death, and how we as a Christian make our own action is by looking at God's attitude, in which being resilient toward your religion and follow the Bible. And
thank you, Bella. Oh,
connection.
Okay, thank you, Bella. Lama?
Okay, I think if I want to connect it with the Makassar writers MEWF about theme about the harmony, I think my story wants us to be harmonized. our life is harmonized with the nature surround us, because through the harmonized life, we can be a whole person. Our life will be fruitful.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lawang. What about Gisela and Maria? Let's just keep it short, maybe.
So one of the inspirations for my story is Matthew 7 verse 12. Do unto others as you would have them unto you. So I believe we are humans who have weakness and strengths, and by understanding each other, I believe we can achieve harmony. Thank you.
Thank you. What about you, Sela? You are still on mute, Sela. Yes. You're still on mute.
Okay. So I think the faith in my story is the belief to be happy. So although we cannot receive happiness from others, we can create our own happiness.
Oh, that's very sweet. Okay, so basically, thank you so much for all the writers. Teman-teman mau sekedar reminding, silahkan diisi untuk daftar hadirnya, karena itu kita akan mengirimkan attendance, certificate attendance ke email yang kalian, ke teman-teman, ke email yang teman-teman isi di attendance list tersebut. Eden nanti bisa tolong share lagi attendance listnya. And before we end up the session, I just wanted to summarize all of the discussion in this forum today, that it is important, like no matter how hard our situation is, Maria, like for instance, with her loneliness in the past, Sela with her imagination, bold, Lawang with the experience that, he sees, the unpleasant experience that he sees. Bella also, who experienced such unpleasant things during the work, at work, and also Andrew, who, has a concern in clinical depression. I just wanted to say how important it is to keep our faith and to keep our faith intact, and to remain in faith that there is a silver linings in the clouds. There will be a rainbow after a heavy rains. Okay. So mind you also, ladies and gentlemen, that all the programs at Makassar International Writers Festival offline has just conducted from 8th to 11th of June 2023. But not to worry, like most of the discussion have already uploaded to their YouTube, which is Rumata Art Space, and the information regarding to the programs and the highlight of Makassar International Writers Festival can be accessed through Instagram at Makassar Writers, Twitter at Makassar Writers, and also the website at www.makassarwriters.com. I would love to thank Satya Wacana Christian University that hosts us the Makassar International Writers Festival, to our beloved speakers and the writers here, to Ibu Chasi, and also to Ibu Por and all the teams here. First and lastly, let me recite one of the quote here that I like in this book, and I wish that this quote will also strengthen our faith in living our life. It says I quietly kneel down beside my bed. God, here I am, I murmur. Thank you for giving me a good family. I can feel your grace through them. Yet, God, I know that I'm asking too much, but please give me your kindness once again. I don't know what to do right now. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry for doubting you. For tomorrow, I will change my attitude and try harder. Please guide me, God, for my life depends on you. Amen. And so whatever it is, I wish and I hope that we will always remain in faith and living in a harmony, not only with others, but also with ourselves, and living in peace. I want us to give everyone a big applause, even though a virtual applause here. And I would love to encourage every one of us also to remain in faith. Thank you so much, and bye-bye. Thank you, Pak Agustia, for hosting us, Ibu Pur,
Thank you.
and also
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Mas
you, Bu
Aryo, Mbak
Deska.
Desi. Mbak Lisbeth, teman dari LAN, Lembaga Administrasi Negara. Thank you for coming, Bu Tias.
Izin pamit ya, Bu Deska, Mbak Deska. Ya, terima kasih Mbak Pur juga semuanya.
Terima kasih Pak Gastia, terima kasih semuanya,
Sama-sama.
terima kasih MIWF, Berumata, terima kasih. Terima kasih para penulis.
Ini kita stop ya recordingnya, dan saya izin leave ya, Pupur, saya harus balik kerja. Thank you, bye-bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.